Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 999. 999, 999, it's crazy, which means that this current time as you are watching is already day 1000 of the Ukraine war. So there is some crazy shit. Okay, so for the day 999 for the 18th of November, so we're going to start off with the Kursk front first. At the Kursk front, Russian forces continued their counteroffensive action, mainly over in the western flank as the main push. As there is also some actions over in the northern flank as well as in the southern flank. So we go into details a little bit. So over at the western flank, oops, too much. Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Sverdiklovo, probably they have some success over at the Nizhny, that's possible, and there's fighting reported at Darino. There's also fighting reported over at Alexandria, which is over here, and there's fighting reported at Leonidovo as well as Novo-Ivanovka. So definitely this push around here seems to be the main one, and there is a possibility that the Russians may have expanded their control around this southern part where the Russians are maybe making a push from the south. There's a possibility, and this could also be the direction where the Sverdiklovo might be coming from. There's a very, very high chance that this is where the Russians are pushing from. Tentatively, we do not know because there's no mapping updates that we can tell to be able to ascertain exactly where the front line is right now. Because but what is important to note is that there is no longer reports of fighting at Lyubimovka, Tostilok, Zelenishai, or Perovsky. No more fighting in these various regions. So this is a clear sign that the front line have moved on. Definitely around to this point. Definitely around at this area here. So if we look at the data that we have, the last attack at Lyubimovka was on the 2nd. Zelenishai was on the 12th. And Tostilok was on the 2nd as well. And Perovsky, even worse, is on the 20th of October. So definitely since then, since the 2nd, we have already seen that the Russians have fully taken Lyubimovka and Tostilok. Fighting reported at Zelenishai was on the 12th. That was the last. Ukrainian forces counterattack was on the 10th. So now it's 19. So at least a week has passed since Zelenishai Shilak, or no, I don't know how exactly to pronounce this. I never really tried Shite. I think it's Shite. Then after that, since then, we haven't seen fighting around here, which there's a chance, which means that the Russian forces, the front line might actually looks a bit like this, with fighting reported towards Alexandria can be corroborated in this way, and in fact over at Leonidovo as well. And then while the Russians are still pushing Novo-Ivanovka with the front line looking something like this. So that is a chance, and from here they go south towards the other direction at Sverdiklovo. So tentatively this seems to be the situation over in the western flank. In the northern flank, there is some insistence on the Ukrainian mapping. They didn't change the mapping, and they continue to claim front line looking like this from Crimea Noe all the way to Pograbki. Russian Defense Ministry, however, reported fighting at Novaya Sorochina. So yeah, so just take this frontline change with a pinch of salt. This only affects the Ukrainian mapping, the blue map. For those that are new to this channel or not aware of this, DPA's mapping is two maps. It's not one map. The blue color side is the Ukrainian map. The pink one is actually the Russian map. So these are actually two different maps. The reason for this is that the Ukrainians and the Russians have totally different perspective of what is currently happening in the front. So the Russians believe that they have at least moved all the way to Novaya Sorochina or closer to Krylenkoe, whereas the Ukrainians don't believe that, and they still believe that they have control over Pograbki. So that's the main difference, which is why there's actually two different maps. So yep, so that's it from that region. There's fighting reported at Plekovo. There was a 3-day pause of reporting about fighting at Plekovo. So the fighting is reported back again. So we just continue to wait and see how this continue to develop. But yeah, the Kursk front is getting a bit stale at this moment. So let's see how this goes. We go into the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, the Russian forces continue their attempt at stretching the Ukrainian forces This time round, the fighting is reported over in Basove, as well as Kozacha Lopan. Basove is basically south of Sonitsky Kozachok, which is where the Ukrainian mapping have considered that the Russians have largely captured, and the Russian Defense Ministry reported fighting at Basalvo, which is probably Basove, and this means that the Russians is now continuing pushing south. Previously, we have fighting reported at Onorobivka. So previously the Russians have been pushing here, so maybe the Russians have taken it as well, leading to Basove. There is also a possibility. It could come from one way or the other. So it could be coming from this either one of these locations. So let's just wait and see how this continue to develop. Fighting at Kozacha Lopan was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. Maybe it could be shelling as well. There's nothing else over in the Lipsy sector or Staritsia. There is both Ukrainian and the Russian Defense Ministry reported fighting over at Voschansk. So otherwise, there's no fighting reported at Okremivka, which was mentioned on the 17th. So that's all from the for the Kharkiv front. We move into the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, there is only fighting reported at Kupiansk, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The entire thing went quiet. No idea what happened to this spiky thing right here. Maybe this is a mosquito bite. I'm not sure. And we move on over in the Pischany sector. The Pischany front, Russian forces attacked at Kursk-ed, Krylyakivka, Zarizove, as well as Lozova. It's a surprise that the Ukrainians are able to continue to hold this position really well, and the Russians pretty much have been stuck at this front line for quite some time. Maybe there is a lack of information, or maybe there is advance that is not reported. We do not know, but tentatively from what we have, yeah, nothing is changing over here. Over in the south, there's nothing over at the Borova sector. We move on to the Svetove front. At the Svetove front, the Russian forces are attacking at Novolyubivka and Bilohorivka. So nothing particularly very outstanding to me in this area. Over in the Kremina front, further south, there is fighting reported over at Kursk-ed. Shelling is reported at Liman, but that's all. We move further south to the Siversk front. At the Siversk front, fighting is reported at Siversk, and there is either shelling or fighting reported at Duronivka. So tentatively, we are not entirely sure, because there is always a possibility that the Russians have advanced within the Serebransky forestry near to the area of Duronivka, which triggered the report from the Russians talking about Duronivka. So anyway, that's all from the Siversk front. At the Bakhmut front, we have only reports of fighting at Chasivya region at Kalinina, as well as Andrievka. But a major change is over at Chasivya, and as we zoom in, you can probably see that the Russian forces have actually taken the rest of the forest. This is the Olovo track, and the Russian forces basically have confirmed taken all of this area south of Kalinina, and they have also captured the rest of Kalinina as well. And if you zoom out, you can see that this basically confirms the full capture of Kalinina. But this was already previously captured in this way. But with this, I think we can actually confirm that the rest of Kalinina is fully captured. So I can actually add this in just to confirm. Actually shouldn't do that. I should map it like here. So Russian forces captured Kalinina, and so that's how I do it. This is how I map. So every single point you see, this is actually all hand typed. So that's all from this Bakhmut front, and we move on from Bakhmut front into the New York front. So New York is over here. This is Torex. And over at Torex is where most of the fighting is currently happening. Fighting is reported at Skibernivka and Torex. According to the Ukrainian mapping, they have considered that the Russians have taken all of the forest just off Zabalka region, which is over here. This is the Zabalka district of Torex city. And the Russian forces basically have yeah, I press undo, then I realized that, oh no, I think I may have made some mistakes. Anyway, let me refresh. My bad. I shouldn't have pressed undo. undo is a bad thing, because this map, this app don't really like people to use undo that much. So the Russian forces basically have taken all this area here. This is the Balkan region. Previously, in the yesterday's situation report, Russian forces has been geolocated at this area, confirming Russian presence around here. So now we have confirmation that the Russian forces have taken the rest of the forest based on Ukrainian mapping. So the situation for the Ukrainians definitely is not looking particularly good. Is quite bad, in fact. So let's continue to watch and see how this goes. There is totally zero information about fighting in this forest. So it just happens. So we move on. And which is also a good time to tell you that no, not everything that you see online is the reality of everything. Like, we're only seeing a very, very small fraction of the actions and the fighting over in Ukraine. It just happened that there's someone is having a GoPro, or someone is having a drone flying overhead that is taking the footage of the actions. Most of the time, most of the fighting, 99% of it or more, will never be captured on footage. It will always be lost to time. And so don't put too much weight on the stuff that we see from the videos that is being released. Everything they see on the internet is because someone wants you to see it. Just like I want you to see this word. Yeah, I want you to see this word because you see, because I want you to see it. So now you see it. So understand? Okay, so we move on from the New York front into the Pokrovsk front. At the Pokrovsk front, so the Russian forces are. Let me see how much should I zoom in. Okay, let's zoom this way. So this is Pokrovsk, the namesake for this front line, and the Russian forces are fighting, attacking Mariolivka, Promin, Lysivka. And if you have been following the SITREP, you will probably know that this area has always been reported to be fighting, and the front line don't change. So this is why I always remind people that no, this is likely to be just a standoff line. This is where the Russians just want to keep the line. So the attention is actually going elsewhere, which is actually further south a little bit here, over at the Selidove sector. In this area, the Russians are drawing a prehistoric rhino. So there's this like some rhino, these are years, and and then it's like, hey, I'm extinct. So that's what they are drawing over here. So this I believe I might have reported already, but this anyway, I reported this in. So the Russian forces expanded control. I believe this I've reported previously. So. But expansion control of Kharkovivka in the northwest of Selidove. There's fighting reported west of Novokrodivka as well. And then the Russian forces take the entire southern part of Petrivka. They're fighting towards Pustinka, Yurievka, Novo-Oleksievka with the control of the northern part of Novo-Oleksievka. And they're also pushing westward from Novo-Oleksievka in the direction of Ukrainka. So this is Ukrainka. And the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Novo-Oleksievka, which we have already declared to be captured on the 7th. So this the Russian report, the Russian Defense Ministry actually corroborate this pretty late, around almost 2 weeks old. So that's about it from this area here in the Selidove region. Tentatively still very complicated. And the farmlands here are getting more and more tighter with a lot of tree lines. So this could also mean that the Russians' advance might slow down due to the amount of tree lines that they have to conquer. And you could probably see the advance in this sector is actually pretty slow. So this would continue because all the tree lines can cover each other much more better because of the shorter distance. Like one tree line to another tree line is around just 1 kilometer. So this is a lot shorter than a lot of the other farm lines that we have seen. For example, this line to this line is 1.5 kilometers. It's much more bigger. So let's see how this continues to develop. Over in the Kursk-ed sector, in the northern half of the Kursk-ed sector, fighting is reported at Sonsivka, Vosnesenka, Bereski. Shelling is reported at Dashne, and fighting is reported at Kursk-ed itself. There's a geolocation of a Russian artillery hitting a Ukrainian tank. I didn't see the footage, so I cannot verify if that's the case. But And there's some slight frontline change over at Bereski. The frontline change at Bereski, as mentioned in the frontline changes report, the Russian forces have taken almost the entire street, and this actually caused the entire area, less than 200 meters down to the reservoir, to be pretty much in Russian fire control. So this path cannot be walked anymore. And the Ukrainian forces, if they exist over at Novoilenka, the south of Novoilenka, they would have to cross the broken bridge or broken causeway down to Korakove to escape. This route out is no longer doable. I think this is no longer able to be used. So this is operational encirclement in this area. However, we can't be sure if there's any Ukrainian forces in this area. So just take it with a pinch of salt. The Ukrainian mapping mapped this entire area as a gray zone. So gray zone can literally mean anything. So just take it as it is. We shall move on. Over in the Uspennivka sector, the eastern part of the Uspennivka sector, Russian forces fight at the region of Dalny. The Russian sources, Rybar, actually claim that the Russian forces have captured Dalny. So that's the claim. We can't be sure of this yet. There is fighting reported at Antonivka, Katerinivka, Yelizavetivka, which I haven't seen being reported to have fighting for 3 days already. There's fighting reported towards Hanivka as well as Trudove. So then this entire salient is looking really uncomfortable right now. So let's see how this goes, as the pressure on Uspennivka is going to ramp up from the Russian side. Definitely very significantly. So we move on away from the eastern part to the western part of Uspennivka. We don't have much except for the shelling of Ulakli, as well as some fighting in the direction of Constantinople. So that's all from this area. Moving into the Velika Novosilka sector. At the Velika Novosilka sector, the Russian forces are pushing westward towards Rozdone, resulting in some capture in the northwest of Poliana, correct. And then there's fighting reported towards Velika Novosilka. Fighting is reported Makarivka, Rivnopil, towards Zelenipole, as well as Novodarivka. This offensive have totally bogged down for now. I didn't see any. Hey, come on, Steam, go away. No, go away. So yeah, so I should have turned off my Steam, but I always forget. Then so definitely the Russians are still on the offensive, but it's definitely do not have the kind of oomph as compared to at the beginning, where they suddenly captured Rivnopil and the Novodarivka region. It definitely have slowed down, which might be a sign of the Ukrainian forces sending reinforcement to plug the hole in this area here. So the problem right now is Rozdone, because this is totally in the rear position. The Ukrainian forces must hold this line, or they might collapse the entire this sector of the Velika Novosilka. So the Rozdone must be held, so the Ukrainians must go on to stop their Russian offense. If not, then they'll get very offended later. So especially the NAFO people, the pro-Ukrainian people, they get very offended, later, because the pro-Russian people is going to be gloating. So after this part, we go into the Zaporizhia front. At Zaporizhia, the front line pretty much is fighting over in the Orikhiv sector. This is Orikhiv, and the Russian forces are fighting towards Novodanilivka and Malatomashka, which is over here. So this tentatively the what we have, reports coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, but that's all. And that's all from the Zaporizhia front. And over in the Kherson front, there is shelling reported all the way at Blakitine, Blakinoe. So the one I saw is actually this far out, Blakitine, a bit far, but it is what it is. And over along the Dnieper River, we have shelling reported at Mikhailske as well as Ogovka. Fighting is reported in the Pridniprovsky direction, as usual by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, whatever that's supposed to mean. So that's all from this area here. And that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 999 for the 18th of November. So press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.